Hello, my name is Danny Grezik, and I serve as an Associate Dean within the Office of the Dean of Students at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. On behalf of the entire office, we thank you for joining us this afternoon to learn a little bit more about the recruitment and intake processes for our fraternities and sororities on campus. By the end of our time together, we hope to give you a better idea of the support that our fraternity and sorority community receives and to let you know some of the resources that are available to you. We also hope to provide you a little more information regarding our community, the recruitment and intake processes, terminology that you or your son or daughter might hear in the coming weeks, and give you ways that you can support your student through the next couple of weeks in their experience through our processes. So again, on behalf of the entire office, we thank you for joining us. Fraternity and sorority life is one of the 6 functional areas within the Office of the Dean of Students. Within the Office of the Dean of Students, you have 10 full-time exempt professionals that work within these areas. Of those 10 full-time professionals, Aubrey and I work most closely with our fraternity and sorority community. Our fraternity and sorority community at the end of the spring 2016 semester comprises 16% of the student population, which equates to about 1,400 students, of which 925 are women. We have 26 recognized fraternities and sororities on this campus. All 26 fall into one of 4 categories. They are either a Panhellenic organization, an interfraternity council organization, a national Panhellenic council organization, or a special interest organization. We'll detail their specific recruitment and intake processes as we move on throughout the slideshow. Aubrey and I have master's degrees in either higher education or college student personnel. Both of us have great experience working with fraternities and sororities. Most of us are volunteers for the organizations that you see listed to the right of each of our pictures. And we, again, had very positive experiences as an undergrad and are very much so involved with the fraternity and sorority community. As I mentioned to the right, you'll see the organizations that we work with. So if you do have any specific questions related to any of the potential organizations that your student may join, feel free to contact us throughout the semester and throughout the academic year. Beyond Aubrey and myself, we also have support within our office. We have the administrative specialist, Erica Hausler, and our graduate assistant, Caitlin McKenzie. Both individuals really provide frontline support to our students. They help make the events that we do run by providing logistical support and really doing a lot of the behind scenes magic that make our fraternity and sorority community work. So they also are very integral components of our fraternity and sorority life staff, as well as the entire Office of the Dean of Students. So what to expect from the fraternity and sorority life staff? When it comes to each of our 26 organizations, we provide one-on-one advisement with each of those chapters in the councils, those 4 categories that I mentioned, to discuss their recruitment practices, new member education, best practices, and areas of challenge. We meet with the chapter presidents on a bi-weekly basis throughout each semester to talk about a lot of these areas and just to see what is going well within the organizations, what do they need help with, and how our office could best support them. Our workshops and initiatives are based around the shared values of academic excellence, leadership development, sisterhood, brotherhood, social responsibility, and civic engagement. So no matter what organization your son or daughter, your student is interested in, they all share these common values. They might call it different things, but ultimately they mean the same things. So when Aubrey and I and the entire Office of the Dean of Students meet with chapter leadership, we're talking about academic excellence. So how are they ensuring that academics is a priority and balanced within all areas of chapter operations? How are they rewarding membership, those that are doing well and excelling well? How are they providing support to those that might need a little more resources? We are also concerned to make sure that members are talking about areas of interest to them and based on topics that might affect them, whether it's on a regional level or on a national level. Leadership development, we want to make sure that our students are using their experiences on campus and in other roles and positions and using that to benefit their fraternities and sororities. So we talk through that process and what it is like to give feedback and how to give information and how to communicate, learn each other's leadership styles, really to make their organizations as best as possible. Sisterhood and brotherhood. How does each organization define sisterhood and brotherhood? What are they doing to develop sisterhood and brotherhood, and being able to articulate a difference between sisterhood and brotherhood and friendship? Social responsibility. How are you keeping your members and your guests safe throughout all your events that you may do? And civic engagement. We want our students and our organizations to be giving back to their fraternities and sororities, but also the local and national community. And we also help them understand that there's a balance between philanthropic events and community service. Again, we want to make sure that our students understand there's a big difference between helping and serving. We want to ensure that our students are serving the community. Aubrey and I, again, work very closely with the other functional areas within the Office of the Dean of Students, whether that's multicultural affairs, student advocacy and conduct, student and family engagement, or leadership programs. Many of our students attend the leadership weekend retreats that we have, whether it's the Gentlemen's Leadership Institute, whether it's the Fraternity Sorority Leadership Academy, whether it's Leadership Institute in May, which is a world-renowned program. There's plenty for students to take advantage of and bring back to their fraternities and sororities. We also work very closely with other departments within our Division of Student and Development. So we work very closely with the Counseling and Personal Development Center, for example, as it relates to bringing speakers and initiatives based on mental health, for example. Obviously, we work very closely with Housing and Movement and Residence Life to coordinate move-in, and University Center to coordinate with spaces that our students might want to use throughout the year. Fraternities and sororities also work very closely with their international headquarters and regional support, their alumni advisors and volunteers. So we obviously as an office work very closely with them and communicate the status of the chapter, again, what's going well, what's not going well. And then obviously parent and family members, we hope that this webinar is one of the ways that we open those lines of communication to understand what your son or daughter or your student may be going through over the next couple of weeks. So to go over some Greek life terminology, all these terms are, some of them are council specific, some of them are organization specific, but I did want to go through some of them. We won't go through all of them now, as some of them we'll touch on when we talk about each council specific, but I did kind of want to give you an idea of some of the words that your son or daughter may be hearing in the next couple of weeks. So we have Panhellenic formal recruitment, which is a mutual selection process by which a potential new member has the opportunity to meet the members of different chapters on campus and explore options to join a sorority. So we'll closely talk about mutual selection later on in our PowerPoint. Interest is a title of a potential new member who is interested in a particular national Panhellenic organization, or commonly referred to as an MPHC organization. Our Pi Chi, so if your student is going through the Panhellenic formal recruitment process next week, they will be guided along by an individual who's called a Pi Chi. Basically, these Pi Chis are upperclassmen who have chosen to disaffiliate from their organization to ensure that your daughter or your student has the best fraternity and sorority experience on this campus. They will meet them once formal recruitment starts. Some of them might have met some of the Pi Chis during the organizational fairs throughout orientation this summer, but they are essentially a great resource to go through the Panhellenic formal recruitment process. They have been trained at the end of the spring semester and most recently at the end of July for a weekend retreat. So again, the Pi Chis, who are about 40 undergraduate students, work very closely with Aubrey and myself to make sure that they're trained and understand the role that they will have for these potential new members. Total is the allowable chapter size for any Panhellenic organization. And quota is the number of potential new members to which each Panhellenic chapter can offer bids to during the formal recruitment process. So we'll talk about that process a little bit more and what quota means. Intake is the process that MPHC organizations use to recruit, interview, choose and educate new members. So oftentimes you'll hear our new National Panhellenic members say that they don't rush or they don't recruit, they do intake. So that's what that means. Interest is running out the tunnel. I apologize for that. Running out the tunnel is the final day of the Interfraternity Council and Panhellenic formal recruitment process, where potential members will receive a bid to join a sorority or fraternity and invited to become a new member. And then lastly, new member education, initial membership development period. So after your son or daughter receives a invitation or accepts a bid to join a interfraternity council or a Panhellenic chapter, they will go through an 8 to 12 week orientation period, after which, if they meet all the standards and requirements, they are initiated as a full-time and lifetime member of that particular organization. If you're interested in learning more about the new member education initial membership development period, we will have a workshop similar to this, a webinar in mid-September that you can also access off the Fraternity and Sorority Life website under the Dean of Students. So going specifically into our Panhellenic sorority community, currently we have 7 organizations on campus. Alpha Gamma Delta is the newest organization who will be coming to campus this coming fall, so just in a couple weeks, and they will also be going through the formal recruitment process. However, your daughter or student cannot select them as an option. So again, we have 7 organizations currently on campus. The Panhellenic Council is made up a group of upperclassmen, student-led peers who execute the sorority recruitment process and a number of other programs throughout the year based on a number of different topics. So again, formal recruitment is a process that's executed by student leaders, but work very closely with Aubrey and myself and the entire Office of the Dean of Students. The minimum GPA requirement for a high school student to join is 2.5. For a transfer student, it's 2.5 and 12 accumulated credits. Now, this 2.5 is a university minimum. However, some of these organizations do have a higher minimum requirement that they are allowed to enforce. When your daughter will go through recruitment 101 on the day of move-in, she'll learn more about that information as it relates to what chapter-specific grade point averages are. So that is clearly noted before your daughter goes through the formal recruitment process. On the right-hand side, you'll see some of our academic-related statistics along with our size of each Panhellenic organization. So you clearly see that our Panhellenic women as a whole are achieving well academically with a 3.12 overall GPA this past spring, and that's higher than the UTC female, all Greek female, all UTC averages, and the all Greek average. On the bottom, right underneath, you see the average chapter size for our fraternities and sororities, excuse me, within the Panhellenic community. In the fall is 152, and the spring was 143. Knowing that our primary formal recruitment season is in the fall, this makes sense that the number is a little bit bigger in the fall and then drops in the spring. Our total membership in the fall, going along with that same thought, was 909 this past fall, and in the spring was about 855 students. So let's talk a little bit more about the Panhellenic formal recruitment schedule. So if your daughter is one of the 381 registered PNMs that are going through this process, she should have received communication from a PICI at this point. If they were not eligible, they received an email from Hannah, our Vice President of Recruitment on the Panhellenic Council, saying that they're ineligible to go through the process. If you are joining us for the Panhellenic formal recruitment process, your daughter is welcome to move into the residence hall between 8 and 12 a.m. on Tuesday, August 16th. Recruitment 101 begins at the UC auditorium at 3 p.m. with check-in beginning at 2 p.m. in the same room. Suggested attire is casual. During Recruitment 101, Your daughter will learn a little bit more about each sorority that will be going through the process, learning a little bit more about what they stand for, getting a little feel about the culture within the organization, again, those minimum academic standards. So each sorority participating, each of the 7, will go through a brief 5-minute pitch on what their organization is about and what they kind of could expect throughout the week. On this day, they will also meet their Pai, who again will be guiding them throughout the week. On Wednesday, formal recruitment actually starts, and this is where they will meet their Pai and go through each of the sororities that they will be visiting, each of the 7 with their entire Pai group. So sorority recruitment consists of 3 rounds. First of which is the Go Greek round, and within that Go Greek round are parties. And again, that is the particular time that your daughter will be going to each of the sororities with some breaks in between. So she will visit each of the 7 organizations for 40 minutes each with her Pai group. Lunch is provided that day as the day goes from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then you see the suggested attire, which is a nice blouse with a skirt, pants, or shorts, or sundress. At the end of the day, your daughter will be making a selection of which of the 4 organizations does she want to go back to most. So she'll put that on one side of a computer screen and the other 2 that she least prefers to go to on the opposite side of the computer screen. The 4 that she puts, the order and the ranking does not matter. Again, it's the 4 that she wants to go back to the most. And then on the right side, those that she prefers to go to least. When it comes to Thursday, your daughter will be going to up to 4 organizations of the 7 that she visited. Now, again, just because she put 2 organizations on the right-hand side that she doesn't want to go to back to most doesn't mean that she won't receive an invite to go to them on Thursday. So again, on Thursday, you'll be only going up to 4 organizations. And at the end of Wednesday, you're going to make those selections of which 4 you want to go back to most. Again, each potential new member will be able to go and visit Alpha, Gamma, Delta. However, they are not part of the selection options when it comes to making those selections at the end of Wednesday night or throughout the entire recruitment process. So on Thursday morning, your student will meet with a Pai to receive the schedule. Again, which sororities they will be visiting. Again, the maximum amount is 4. And she will go to a party and visit each of those organizations for 45 minutes each. And again, what time that looks like and where she will be detailed on the schedule. However, the day is expected to go from 1 p.m. to about 8 p.m. Lunch is not provided on this day. The suggested attire is a nice blouse with a skirt, pants, or shorts, or sundress. So it gets a little more fancier each day through the formal recruitment process. And again, at the end of Thursday, your daughter will be making selections of the 4 maximum that she visited, which 2 that will she want to go back to most on one side, and those 2 that she would like to go least on the right side. Now, again, that's the maximum amount. So on Thursday, your daughter might be only going to 3. So at the end of Thursday, she will choose which 2 she wants to go back to the most. And on the opposite side of this computer, she'll need to put which sorority she would like to go back to least if she had an option. Again, just because she puts the organization on the right-hand side doesn't mean that she won't be invited to that organization on Friday. What that means is essentially, if that happens, is that that particular sorority is very interested in your student or daughter, and they're hoping that your daughter or student gives that organization another try. On Friday, preference round. So your daughter will be going up to 2 sororities at that day. Again, going back to 1 sorority is normal. At the end of that day, your daughter will be making a selection, and it's more of a ranking. So if your daughter went back to 2 organizations on Friday, she will need to rank which one she likes best, 1 or 2. And it has to be in the right order, with 1 being the most likely she wants to go back to, and 2 being the one that she does not want to go back to as much. When she does this, she'll also be completing a membership recruitment acceptance binding agreement. So that basically means is if she ranks any of the organizations that she has, whether it's 1 or 2, she is saying that if she gets an invitation and bid to join one of those organizations, she will. If she declines, she's ineligible to join another Panhellenic sorority until the next primary recruitment season, which would be fall 2017. This goes to the second choice. So if your daughter went to 2 organizations on Friday, if she ranks her second organization that she wants to go back to most and she receives a bid from that organization, she is also saying that she would join that organization. If she does not, she is ineligible to join a sorority for a full recruitment year. When it comes to the Panhellenic recruitment process, you will only receive 1 bid on Saturday morning. So you might be going to 2 organizations and making 2 selections on Friday night. However, you're only given 1 bid or offered 1 bid on Saturday, which is the day of running out the tunnel. So at that time, if your daughter will be receiving an invitation to join a sorority, she will report to Dirtrick Hall at 9 a.m. At this time, she will also be given a breakfast, which is a brief grab and go, but there will be plenty of water. And running out the doors or running out the tunnel will be occurring at 11:30 a.m. at Chamberlain Field, which is an outside facility. So there will be plenty of fans, water, and like I said, breakfast for your daughter to pick from. This is an event that's open to public. Many times our fraternity men or other student leaders will come to attend. You as a parent or a family member are also welcome to attend at 11:30 a.m. After running out the tunnel occurs, there'll be chapter-specific bid day events. So if your daughter accepts an invitation to join, she'll go with her new member class and have a specific event with their sorority. And then on Sunday night, if they're living on campus, they have to go to residence hall meetings that have been on their calendars. Our sororities leadership are aware about this. So chapter-specific bid day events usually occur on Saturday night and then pick up again on Monday. The suggested attire for bid day is that you definitely wear closed-toed shoes and that you wear a sports bra or a tank top underneath, because you immediately receive a new shirt from the chapter you choose. So I know this is a lot of information regarding our Panhellenic recruitment process. So again, more of this information will be shared during Recruitment 101. It will also be touched upon as it relates to the membership recruitment acceptance binding agreement, what that means. But if you as a parent have more information or questions that you have, feel free to contact either Aubrey or myself next week. So a question that we often get when it comes to our Panhellenic recruitment process is membership guaranteed. So the short answer is no. Membership is not guaranteed. We cannot guarantee that your daughter will receive a bid. However, if she maximizes her options throughout the formal recruitment process, she greatly increases her likelihood of receiving an invitation to join. What I mean by that is that if second day you're asked to rank the 4 organizations that you want to go back to most, and if you on that left-hand side of the computer, instead of picking 4, you only pick 3, you are not maximizing your option and therefore decreasing your likelihood of receiving a bid to an organization. So that works with the last day as well as preference. So if you went to 2 organizations that night, we highly recommend that you rank 1 and 2 and not leave one organization behind. Again, doing that decreases the chances of receiving an invitation to join. So at the end, just to kind of let you know what statistics that might look like, Last year in 2015, 209 women, I do apologize for that, 209 women completed the membership recruitment acceptance binding agreement. And of those 209 women, 207 were offered an invitation to join. So again, the likelihood is very high if you maximize your options. However, it is very important that you maximize your options. And obviously, of these 207, some did receive their second choice in their ranking, but a good majority received their first preference. Again, the whole point of the panel link recruitment process and the way it's set up is to ensure that as many women are offered an invitation to join as possible. It is a mutual selection process, so just as your daughter or student will be making those selections, the sorority will be doing the same. So they will be also choosing which women that they saw throughout each day they want to go back to or like the most. They're using the information that they have based on the conversations they had within those parties, but also the information that your daughter provided upon registration. At the end of each day, each sorority is given a magic number. It's basically an invite list with a plus or minus. And this number, which is the invite list number, is calculated to ensure that they reach their quota size at the end of the recruitment process. And again, the whole point of the Panhellenic recruitment process is to ensure that as many women receive a bid as possible, but also that quota size of the new member class is as equal as possible. So we want to make sure that each new member class has around the same amount of women. That number last year was 42. Again, we're kind of expecting that number to go up based on the amount of potential new members that registered. But that's kind of where we are right now. We won't have a better idea of what that number is until recruitment gets started and more towards the end. So again, if you have any specific questions that we could answer in regards to membership, please do not hesitate to contact Aubrey or myself. Another question that we often receive is regarding membership dues and what pricing looks like. So very quickly, you'll see each of our 6 organizations. Again, Alpha Gamma Delta is not listed, knowing that they will be starting this fall. And like I mentioned, even though they will be going through the formal recruitment process, they won't start actually recruiting until after Labor Day. But what you see on this list is the total amount as a new member that your daughter would be expected to join if they joined one of these organizations, and then the amount as an initiated member. Oftentimes, the first semester is often higher because that calculates the new member initiation fees, badge fees, and other requirements in regards to dues. So this kind of gives you an idea of how much money will be expected and owed to each organization. But please note that this fee might not include any miscellaneous t-shirts, social functions, and various other events that your daughter will have to decide if she wants to go to and pay that additional fee. So again, this kind of gives you an idea of what each sorority will be expected in regards to payment. I do encourage your daughter to ask whether it's their Pi Chi or while they're at the party each round of formal recruitment process to see what dues look like. Is there a payment plan? Are there any scholarships? Those are good questions that they should ask. But again, we hope that this chart gives you an idea of how much would be expected of your daughter that first semester and then as an initiated member. Moving on to our Interfraternity Council. Currently, we have 8 organizations within the Interfraternity Council. Our newest organization is Phi Gamma Delta, commonly referred to as Fiji, which joined us this past spring semester. So again, much like the Panhellenic Council, the Interfraternity Council is a student-run governing board that executes the formal recruitment process and a number of other events. The minimum to join from a university for a high school student is a 2.5. For a transfer student or a returning student, it's 2.5 and at least 12 accumulated credits. Please note that each fraternity may have a higher standard that they enforce, but again, that is a good question for your student or son to ask of each of these organizations. On the right-hand side, you'll see some of our academic information, our average chapter size, again, knowing our primary recruitment season for interfraternity council organizations is in the fall. Our numbers are a little bit higher at the end of the fall semester as opposed to the spring semester. And then you see on the bottom our total membership size. When it comes to their recruitment schedule, so unlike the Panhellenic recruitment process, IFC formal recruitment process begins after classes have started. So on Wednesday, August 25th and Thursday, August 27th, there will be recruitment 101 sessions from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Raccoon Mountain Room, which is directly across the bookstore in the University Center, and very much similar to recruitment 101 for Panhellenic. Your son will learn more about each fraternity, what they stand for, and what their specific events are, and what their minimum requirements are. So in order to go through and receive a bid from a fraternity during the formal recruitment process, your son will need to attend one of these recruitment 101 sessions. They'll also need to meet the minimum standards, like I mentioned, of 2.5, and they'll also need to register for fraternity recruitment. So you see that link to register. They need to do that by Friday, August 26th. Again, in order to receive an invitation to join any of the organizations that they're interested in, they do have to register and pay that $25 fee. That $25 fee does cover events that the Interfraternity Council will run, t-shirts, logistics, room bookings. So a lot kind of goes into that $25 fee. That same night, there's a welcome back comedy show in the Roland Hayes Auditorium at 7:30 p.m. On Saturday, there is a Chattanooga Lookouts game, which is a minor league affiliate of the Minnesota Twins. And that event is being planned as the game starts at 7:15 at the ATM Field in downtown Chattanooga. On Sunday, August 28th, there will be fraternity rotations. Basically, that is an opportunity for your son to learn about each fraternity and learn a little bit more about them. This is also a requirement in regards to attendance and in order to receive an invitation to join. From Monday, August 29th to Wednesday, August 31st, there are fraternity-specific events. So again, as I mentioned, on Wednesday and Thursday, your son will learn more about those events, what time there are, what type of events there are, and where they're taking place. So as we get into later portions of the week, that Wednesday night, many of them may be invite only. But again, we encourage your fraternity, your son, to kind of look at the organizations that he's specifically interested in attending. Obviously, these events are alcohol-free. Saturday is the bid day. Just as you've seen from our Panhellenic organizations, they have a Running Out the Tunnel event, which will be happening at 10 a.m. in Chamberlain Field. This is also open to the public. When it comes to Interfraternity Council formal recruitment schedule, this is all subject to change as our men work to finalize their schedule. What I did want to mention that unlike Panhellenic formal recruitment, your son may receive an invite to 4 organizations, 5 organizations, 1 organizations. So at the end of the day, they will need to decide which organization is for them. And on Saturday, they will go ahead and sign paperwork from the university letting us know what organization he chooses to join, but it'll also ask your son to acknowledge our hazing statement, our policies regarding fraternity involvement. When it comes to our interfraternity council organizations, each semester, if your son is given an invite, they should expect dues for about $400 to $800 per semester. Again, really varies on each organization, but we do encourage your son to ask those questions of the organizational leadership in regards to how much dues are, what they go to, are there any miscellaneous fees, and if there are payment plans. So again, that's a question that we do encourage your son to ask. Our National and Panhellenic Council, we have 6 organizations that are currently on campus. Their minimum to join is a 2.5 and 12 credits. So first year incoming freshmen, first semester, are not eligible to join these organizations. The earliest that you are eligible is your second semester if you have at least a 2.5 and 12 credits. On the right-hand side, you see our academic information for these organizations, the average chapter size, and our membership in the fall and the spring. Most of our organizations conduct intake in the spring. It does vary, but primarily a lot of our 6 organizations will conduct intake in the spring semester. So that's why you'll see those numbers bump up a little bit in the spring. These organizations are traditionally smaller in size. So as I mentioned a lot during our recruitment Greek life sessions during orientation, please do not equate chapter size with how well or underperforming they are. We really encourage each student to do their research as it relates to each of those organizations that they're interested in. In regards to intake for each of these organizations, we encourage your son or daughter to come out to Welcome Week events. They'll be occurring September 11th to 18th. Some of these events include more than just our letters, a org fair, a networking event, a yard show. If you're not familiar with a yard show, it's an opportunity where all organizations will stroll or step. Stepping is a synchronized hand-foot movement, singing and dancing and chanting that occurs. That kind of gets you to learn a little bit more of the organizations and their history. So again, when it comes to intake, we encourage each individual to do their research, to look out for flyers with informational and interest meeting, whether it's in the university center, on social media, just talking to the individual members. But intake regarding our MPHC organizations is a little different than our Panhellenic and IFC recruitment processes, but we do want you to be aware of those differences. When it comes to membership in these organizations, dues could range upwards of $1,000. It really depends on the year that you join and the semester that you join. When it comes to these questions, again, we encourage you to do your research, ask these questions during the MPHC one-on-one events on the social media, or just talking to the men and women within those organizations, or looking up their national and regional websites. Our special interest organizations. So we currently have 5 special interest organizations, 3 of which are fraternities and 2 of which are sororities. These special interests may range from service to faith to music. Again, just because these organizations do not have a governing council that's led by students doesn't mean that they don't receive support from fraternity and sorority life and our staff within the Dean of Students office. So we obviously work very closely with these organizations as it relates to our shared value. When it comes to intake of these organizations and their recruitment processes, each organization does their process on their own. So we encourage your students to look up on their social media websites, on our OrgSync platform, on flyers to see what those events look like, where they are. The minimum for an incoming high school student to join is a 2.5, and returning and transfer students, it's a 2.5 with 12 credits earned at a college level. On the right hand, you see our academic information for our special interest organizations. And on the bottom, you again see our average chapter size and total membership. I do want to note that in the fall, you'll see NA, non-applicable, and that's because we recently started working with these organizations. Instead of being a registered student organization and under that umbrella within the Office of the Dean of Students, knowing how closely they work and operate as fraternities and sororities, we wanted to make sure that we're working with them. So again, when it comes to the leadership of these organizations, we're working very closely with them and meeting with them on a bi-weekly basis, and we're communicating back and forth in regards to the events that they are having. So how can you help? So what we want you to do is encourage your student to keep an open mind and consider all organizations throughout the recruitment or intake processes. Oftentimes, they might have friends at other institutions and they say, well, I'm joining XYZ organization. It's important to note that that XYZ organization might look completely different on our campus. The culture, the membership, what that looks like, how they execute their goals, all that might look different. So that's why we encourage each individual to keep an open mind and to ask right questions and do the research for them. Oftentimes, there's this perception out there that if you join one particular organization, your friends that you may have had, if they join another organization, you're not going to be as close. That's false. Many of our organizations work very closely with one another. So their time might be a little different in how they use that time in regards to time management and what their event schedule might look like. But as I mentioned, each fraternity and sorority is essentially the same and what they stand for. How they execute those shared values looks different and the membership looks different. But again, at the end of the day, we are a fraternity sorority life community. Again, we encourage your students to ask questions, ask us resource, visit us in the Office of the Dean of Students on the 3rd floor to evaluate each organization as a whole on their own. There's plenty of information on our website that can be viewed in regards to each organization or our council. So we encourage yourself and your son or daughter to access those resources. If you will be joining us on Thursday, August 18th on campus for move-in, we would love to see you in the University Center Tennessee room at 5:45 p.m. for a welcome reception for our parents and families. This is sponsored by the Parent and Family Association. So if you viewed this webinar and you would like to ask more questions regarding fraternity and sorority life, please do stop by. We would love to see you and answer any more questions that you have. Feel free to connect with us. So on the screen in front of you, you'll find Aubrey and I's contact information, as well as a general email address, a phone number, and a website that I mentioned earlier that you can access, and our social media accounts. So we do encourage you to utilize that information that's in front of you. And lastly, we would love to hear your feedback regarding this webinar and whether or not it was helpful. So please access this link. Some of you might receive it via email if you mark that you're interested in learning more about fraternities and sororities during the orientation process. But whether or not you receive that email, and if you view this webinar, we encourage you to take the survey to let us know how we did. We also look forward to hearing and talking to you more in mid-September, where we'll detail the new member education process, the initial membership development process, and talk a little bit more about our proactive stance on hazing and what our hazing policies are and our hazing prevention and awareness initiatives and efforts. So we hope that you're joining us in mid-September for that. Again, on behalf of the entire Office of the Dean of Students, we thank you for joining us. We hope that this webinar was helpful, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you for all that you do in regards to supporting your student at the University of Tennessee-Chattanooga. Thank you.